I'm Ainsley, and I would like you to join me on a vacation to Greece on a isolated island with a bunch of my so-called friends. And there will be the one and only Benoit Blanc. In today's video, we will be discussing Glass Onion: A Knives Out Mystery that is available to stream on Netflix. The movie was actually released in theaters for a week before going on to the streaming platform on December 23rd. I highly recommend, if you haven't seen it and you really enjoyed the first film or you just love a good mystery, to at least check it out and go in pretty blind. I hadn't read too much about it, nor had I watched the trailer, so it was quite surprising for me on many fronts. And while this movie is quite different in its overall atmosphere and tone, it still manages to seamlessly connect with the original Knives Out. We are no longer in a more, I guess, isolated feeling. I think the first movie, we spent so much time in this big house where there were books and furniture everywhere, and it's just this classic old house, and the family is all enclosed together, so things are a little bit more claustrophobic in that way. And so the overall atmosphere just changes a lot when you are on a Greek island in this massive billionaire's lair, basically. It's a lot more vast, and that comes across in many different ways. And of course, the characters are quite different than the predecessors, who all pretty much came from wealth, has inherited wealth, where the people in Glass Onion do not. These are people who are relatively self-made in some way. And it does make fun of billionaires and just the filthy rich in general. And if that's not for you, then I would definitely say stick this one out. But other than that, I am going to leave that there if you want to go in and just check it out for yourself. I do highly recommend it for mystery lovers and generally people who enjoyed the first film, and just know that Benoit Blanc comes in swinging, and he's just every bit as enjoyable as he was in the first movie. Rian Johnson returns as a writer-director, and he also produced the film along with Ram Bergman. Cinematography by Steve Yealing. Music by Nathan Johnson, who is actually the cousin to Rian Johnson. It is edited by Bob Duxgay under the production T Street and distributed by Netflix. Now, Netflix was not the original distributor for this. Lionsgate was actually going to continue the series until Netflix bought it out in March of 2021. And Netflix actually has the rights for another Knives Out to be filmed, so there is plans for another Knives Out by both Rian Johnson and Daniel Craig. They both said they will continue to do this as long as the other one's involved, and I'm really excited to see more of what they do. Rian Johnson really wears his inspirations on his sleeve, though he does bring his own creative energy to the film and his own signature style, which is really helpful to making these movies entertaining and stand out on their own, and not just be an Agatha Christie clone or a detective story that's derivative of others that have came before. This movie was also inspired by The Last of Sheila, which is a film that was written by Anthony Perkins. That movie is also quite funny, and it's set on a boat, and it has some of the similar kind of energy and tone and atmosphere that this one does, though it's not quite as vast as Glass Onion, I would say. Though if you have watched The Last of Sheila, I do think you would enjoy this. Glass Onion was made on a budget of $40 million, and on the week that it was released in theaters, it made $15 million back from that. It was in March of 2021 that Netflix ended up purchasing the rights to Knives Out, and they purchased it for $469 million. And with that, like I said, they get the Glass Onion sequel as well as one other film. This film has been a critical success, much like its predecessor. There are serious topics present in this film, much like they were in the first one, but it doesn't seem to bog down any of the comedy or story that comes with it. Obviously, when you have a bunch of rich people coming on into an island, you might get at least a little bit of commentary out of that, but I think Rian Johnson really likes coming into these films with a specific critique on culture, specifically our culture as it is currently, and where in the first film the main critique was on the inherited wealth of other people and how they feel entitled to someone else's earnings and not having to in any way work those, that they're just deserving of them, and xenophobia was brought up, and there are similar things that are brought up in this one, but it's more about new money and the way billionaires specifically hold on to people and really keep people in their pocket. And there's blackmail going on and all of that. So I hope if you've gotten to this moment, you've at least seen the film, because I went in completely blind. Of course, I knew that there was Benoit Blanc, I knew a lot of the cast and that Rian Johnson wrote and directed this, but I decided not to watch the trailer for it, and I'm really glad that I didn't. When I was going over the credits for this movie to do this video, I realized that there was a lot that was said there that would have given it away, and there were some pretty shocking moments for me that made the movie that much more enjoyable. There is some of the humor in this that I don't think would land for everyone. Now, that's just comes with the territory. Anytime that you do comedy, there are gonna be people who don't like your specific brand of comedy, and so I can understand if the jokes don't land for everybody. There were certain things that didn't necessarily land for me, but this was still a 5-star movie for me. My bread and butter are mysteries, and I do love a good mystery movie, especially if it's done well, and certainly Rian Johnson has a knack for writing both a mystery and a comedy film, and putting those two together is just magnifique, chef's kiss for me. While the location and atmosphere has changed for this film, as I had said before, the style and what Rian Johnson had brought to that original film returns in this, and we do get to know a little bit more about Benoit Blanc and his personal life prior to going into Greece and solving the little mystery. I love that. I love that he still has this air of mystery about him, but he's this kind of eccentric person. He's really reminiscent of Hercule Poirot, who is my personal favorite detective of all time, and he's just more this little, you know, classy southern dude to Hercule Poirot's classy Belgian. And he definitely has the specific way of dressing and presenting himself, which is something that really comes with the territory of writing detective fiction. I think you need at least that one character that stands out of the bunch for just being particularly specific, and Benoit Blanc definitely does that. Something that stands out about these movies is how much we get to know these individual characters, and none of them really lay flat. I would say the only character that was a little flat to me in this was Whiskey, though I do like that we get to experience a few little moments with her, and I do feel that was kind of intentional, because in the eyes of most of the people around her, they only really know her as arm candy, and they don't get to know her personally. And we definitely see that with Whiskey and Andy when they have a little bit of a conversation, which is a moment I really did like in the film. And I like that we get to know who these people are, their good and their bad sides, and we get to go through these character arcs with them and these arcs that they experience together. These characters are essentially parodies of the most extreme people in politics, in the modeling and entertainment industry, in science, and in the 1%. Now, we do have our Edward Norton character, Miles, and he is very much an Elon Musk. And I remember I watched this the other day, and I was watching with my parents, and I knew right away, like, it's pretty it's pretty spot on to say that he is reminiscent of all these techie billionaires and all these people that want to be techie billionaires. But I specifically saw Elon Musk right off the bat. And there is a specific part where Benoit Blanc refers him as being a genius. Like, okay, no, never mind, he's not Elon Musk. And then later he talks about how much of an idiot he is. And we're like, okay, then he is very much Musk-esque. And I think that there's stuff that goes on in the movie where he's not saying certain words correctly, which at the end of the day, that's not necessarily a bad thing. I mess up words all of the time, especially when I'm sitting here talking to a camera, or I'm in deep conversation with somebody, or I'm rambling on. But I think when you present yourself a certain way and you're really just a smartass who walks into a room thinking you're the smartest person in there, it definitely adds to the absolute cockiness and the entire character of who Miles is and how everything begins to unfold. And as we get to know him and his relationships with everyone, we really get to know how they came together, because the group itself is quite eclectic. And to me, this just showcases how anyone, I mean, they don't even have to be a billionaire or millionaire, can keep certain people around them because it makes them feel better about themselves to have them, and they basically treat them like they're their puppets. And Miles is somebody who does that, and I found that to be a very interesting thing to work with in this mystery. It's something that I definitely read when I'm reading Agatha Christie mysteries, and when you read Sherlock Holmes, you'll definitely find people like Miles in there, and definitely find people like his friends there as well. I really enjoyed Knives Out. It was a fun and interesting ride. It didn't seem like it dragged on too long, which is something that really makes these movies great. I watched the first one a little later on from when it had came out, and then I ended up a little while later, I was watching it constantly. Like, I'd get up in the morning and put it on, watch it before work, or have it on in the background then. And so I was really excited for this one to come out. I'm excited for it to continue. But something that I think really works for these is together how they are very much a continuation of the universe. They don't seem as if anything is off and it's just like a film and a film and a film and a film. I believe in any type of franchise that it should be a through line, something that keeps these together, and the character is Benoit Blanc, and he's the one that does that. But there's also a certain aspect of the overall presentation. And tone can change, atmosphere can change, but the way in which the director and writer presents the story is something that makes it stand out as a series. Now, when it comes to preference, I can certainly say that I do prefer the first one, and a lot of that is just because of my own personal tastes. And I do think there are a lot of people who are going to probably say the same thing. But I did still enjoy Glass Onion, and I think it holds up, and no wonder it was also a critical success. I do wish it got more time in theaters for anybody who wanted to see it there. I honestly wish I did go and see it in theaters, but I am glad that it's available on a streaming service that's accessible to a lot of people, that a lot of people do already have. And as much as I'm not as big of a fan of Netflix these days, as I'm sure many of you are not, I am glad to see Knives Out on there. I'm just hoping they also release it on DVD. I would like to hear your thoughts on this film as well. Please put spoilers ... and then let me know what you think. And if you just want to talk a little bit about the original movie, your thoughts on mysteries and Rian Johnson in general, whatever, just comment below. This movie is fairly new, so I don't want anyone to be spoiled by the comments, but I would like to know your thoughts on it, and I want to continue making movies on mysteries because mysteries are one of my favorite things in the world. It's actually one of my favorite genres, and I liked a little good mix-up of a mystery and comedy. So again, thank you for watching this video, and I'd love to hear from you. If you liked it, give it a like, give it a thumbs up, and if you want to stick around and feel so inclined, hit subscribe and ring that bell to be notified every single time I post. I'll see you again next time. Bye.